Well, we'll just go ahead and start since it appears that my intro doesn't ever want to work now. But I know that the last few days have been really hard. I know that the last few days have been really hard on everyone. And I'm going to start today's sermon by saying this. Let me start with the title. Today's sermon is titled Permission to Evolve, Outgrowing Promises That No Longer Fit. Because there comes a point when we all have to decide where we stand. There comes a point when we all have to decide what we are inside, what we are made of inside. There comes a time when things that we promised ourselves in the past or that we promised other people in the past no longer fit to where you're going. And I want you guys to really let all of this sink in. And today, while I'm talking, I have the comments where I can't see them. And I'm going to tell you why. Because inevitably, on these Sundays, and I understand that some people are never going to be in a spot where they can hear words correctly. There are people that can never hear the philosophy, the deeper aspect of the inner being of who they are. They may never be able to, and I understand that. But for me, as someone who's trying to share some of these other philosophies with you, not claiming to be an expert, but share these philosophies with you, there is always someone in the chat that wants to one-up other people, that wants to say, oh yeah, I already do this, I already do that. Bitch, if you already did it, you wouldn't be here listening. I said what I said. This week has been hard for everybody. So before we start, I want everyone to just take a big breath. Just a big, huge breath. Because if you're like me, you've caught yourself repeatedly this last week holding your breath, realizing that you're not breathing all the way, whether it's because you've been sick as a dog or anxiety. So we're all going to take a huge deep breath. Are you ready? I didn't start this sermon with a deep breath because it's a performance. I didn't start this sermon with a deep breath to be polite. I didn't start this sermon with a deep breath to just bring you back to center. Yes, it's for bringing you back to center. Yes, it's for getting more oxygen into your lungs. Yes, it's for making you be present in the moment. But if you watch me for any length of time, you know that breath work is a big thing for me. Not that. But the ancient idea, the Eastern philosophical aspect and Eastern philosophical spiritual aspect, I know that I said that twice, but you know what I'm saying, of breath work, of what deep breaths do for the body, the mind, and the soul. And I want you guys to be conscious this week of taking real breaths. In fact, the first thing you can do, notice I said can because you have to make this decision every single morning before you ever sit up out of bed, is take one big, deep, real breath and be present in the meat sack that you're in, because we've all gotten disassociated lately. And at any time during this sermon, you might need to take one of these big, deep breaths, because I wrote this. I wrote this for me. I am working through some stuff. I wrote this for me. But I also know that when I'm going through shit, other people are going through shit. When you're going through shit, other people are going through the same shit that you're going through. And let's face it, it's shit. So I'm going to be honest with you guys today, and I want you to be honest with yourselves. Because I've been really honest with myself this past week, and I don't like it. Super honest, Bodhi. I don't like it. When we're being really honest with ourselves about things that we do, things that we did, things that we want to do, etc., let's face it, like, that's not comfortable. But raise your hand if you have hit that moment with the beginning of this year. Because unlike other New Year's where you're like excited, the world's excited that it's a new year, right? This New Year's felt heavy as fuck. And so many people have been sick, have lost their jobs. Like this new year has not been a new year like we're normally used to. And there comes a moment when you look around and you're like, okay, all of the old rules that used to apply to me as me, who I am, they're not working anymore. All of the old foundations of who makes me, suddenly I'm seeing where there might be some erosion, where there might be some cracks, where there might be some broken pillars. Maybe I didn't want to see them, right? But that is when you really have to look at your foundation and your rules and realize that the reason that those things are broken is because that is the part of you, the version of you that carried all this weight. The part that endured, the part that survived, the part that stayed quiet, the part that stayed loyal, the part that stayed small, the part that supported, the part that was the support system for someone else's springboard and failure. And after you have this kind of realization, and I have a feeling that a lot of you have come to this realization because, I mean, you can blame the planets, you can blame Aquarius, you can blame it being this year being a 1 in numerology, you can blame it being the new year, you can blame politics, you can blame you can blame whatever you want to blame. Because to be honest, it's all a factor in it. As you're looking at those broken pillars, you realize that you can't keep walking forward. You cannot keep operating on those broken foundations and those broken pillars and still carry that at the same time. You can't still carry all that weight at the same time that you're trying to move forward. And that moment is horrifying. That moment of realization that who this is back here can no longer come forward with who this is over here, that like I'm going to be this person. I can't take this person with me. That moment of realizing that you are no longer this person back here is horrifying. And I spoke about this in the sermon right before New Year's about being unbound to move forward, right? Growth doesn't just ask you to add new things. I use the whatever you want to call it, the alliteration of a bucket all the time. And that if your bucket is full, how the hell are you going to put anything in it? You have to take things out of the bucket to be able to put new things in the bucket, right? You went to the rock store, you got all the rocks, right? Well, now your shelves are full and you don't have a place for the new rocks. So what are you going to do? Now, my answer would be build more fucking shelves. But let's say you can't. You have 3 shelves and that's it, man. What are you going to do? You got to figure out which rocks no longer belong to you, right? It's funny because, and I use that specifically because I am going through a lot of boxes and unpacking and finding jewelry that I forgot I bought. I'm finding stones. I'm finding amazing pieces of like pendants and earrings and stuff that I forgot I bought. And every time I pick one up, I'm like, oh, I remember when I got that. Oh, I remember when I got that. Oh, I used to wear this all the time, right? But I don't have room for those things anymore. And if they've been in a bag for over a year, then obviously they aren't mine anymore, right? So you have to go through and you have to think like, man, I remember that, like I got that when I was in Arizona, or when I was in Utah, or when I was in Colorado, or when I was in Georgia, or, you know, I was at a little shop, or blah, 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 right? Bitch, you haven't worn it in a year or more. It ain't yours, man. Let it go. Sometimes looking at those things is not just asking you to add new things to the bucket or the shelves or whatever you want to say. It's asking to let that older version of yourself go. To die. To pass away. And today's sermon is for anybody else who is standing at that threshold with me today. Because that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Tomorrow's my birthday. I'll be 49. That kind of makes me want to cry a little bit. Like, not because I'm like, oh my God, I'm almost 50. Bitches, I'm so excited to be 49. I'm so excited to be 50. I have way too many friends that didn't even make it to 20. I'm so excited to be 49, and I'm so excited to be 50. And if y'all don't think I'm going to plan some epic 50th birthday party, you wrong. But tomorrow's my birthday. And it's funny, I don't usually celebrate on my birthday. I celebrate the day after because 113 is my lucky number. But I'm really hardcore looking at who I'm taking into my 50s. I have loved who I am in my 40s. My 40s was my taking me back decade. My 40s was, oh, let's go, bitch. Like, that's the theme of what my 40s were. Let's go, bitch. So who am I going to be in my 50s? Because now I got to look at that. And I'm at this threshold. And I know some of you guys are at this threshold as well for all the same reasons, different reasons, every reason. And I want you to think about the promises that you made to yourself so you could survive. And as I look down at the clock, it's 12:12, because of course it is. I want you to think about the promises that you made to you during the most horrible times in your life so that you could survive. Not to God, not to Allah, not to Buddha, not to any of the deities out there, to you. What is the promise you made to you in here so you could just survive? Because if you really think about it, most of us didn't consciously choose to become who we are. I didn't. Dude, my goal when I was 10, 12 was to be an astronaut. I wanted to go to the moon. I wanted to go to Mars. I wanted to go wherever. I wanted to go out into space. And then astronaut, because your body's broken, bitch. So I was like, I'm going to be a writer. Never ever in a million years, when I was anywhere from 10 to 18, if you had said, you know what, when you're in your 40s, you're going to have a large media following, and you're going to be a professional witch, and you're going to teach people folk magic, and you're going to travel all over the United States, and you're going to see amazing shit and crazy shit that you can't explain, I would have been like, no, really though, what's going to happen? Like, seriously, I would have been like, that's a movie. Cool that you think I'm going to do that. Most of us didn't choose to become who we are. We adapted to become who we are. We morphed. Go, Power Rangers. You're welcome. We made promises to ourselves when we were in the midst of the biggest fear-based part of ourselves. We made promises to ourselves when we were going through some horrendous trauma that when you hear about it from someone else, you're like, holy shit, that's bad. And then you realize, oh, I went through the same shit. We made promises to ourselves with expectations, with love, with support. The support maybe we didn't have. We supported our fucking selves. We loved ourselves, even if it was only like this much, right? And chances are you said something like, I'll just be the peacekeeper. I'll just be the middle ground. I'll just be here. I'll be the strong one. I'll be the support. I'll be the loyal one. I won't leave like everyone else does. What promise did you say to yourself? Because all of those were ones that I said to myself. Because unfortunately, being married to someone who is a combat veteran with a lot of issues, the VA does not care. This is my own personal opinion. I'm just letting you know. They might now, but 10 years ago they didn't. The spouses were the first line of defense, and you were expected to handle everything. Whether it meant just them drinking themselves into a stupor, them getting addicted to pain pills, them beating the fuck out of you in front of your children, them doing whatever they needed to. You had to take it and be the strong one because they needed you at home. So being the strong one, being the loyal one, how many of y'all identified with what I just said? And those promises, they mattered, right? They mattered to you, right? They mattered. They worked. They kept you alive, didn't they? They kept me alive. And I'm not being facetious. They kept me alive. But the problem is that survival vows are not meant to be lifelong contracts. Because if you are in a lifelong contract with a survival vow, all you're ever going to do is just barely try to survive. There's a quote by Carl Jung that says, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And I'm going to say it again, and I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to just really hardcore listen to the words and what it pings in you in here, or in here, or in your leg, or wherever. Are you ready? Close your eyes. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become. And when you choose to become something new, that means that you admit that what once was your saving grace is now chains. It's limits. It's a box. And this is the part where people get stuck. And I have been stuck here for about a month. I'm not going to lie. About a month. A little over a month. This is where people get stuck. Because you start to confuse gratitude to the universe over keeping you alive through all of those things. Gratitude for yourself for being so strong and so on, with obedience. And it's really easy to confuse gratitude with obedience. You start to believe that honoring your past means that you have to stay loyal to it forever. But when you look at the word gratitude and you look at the definition of the word gratitude, do you see imprisonment anywhere in there? I mean, I'll wait if you want to look it up, but do you see imprisonment in there anywhere? I mean, I'm going to tell you that the answer is no. Nowhere in the definition of gratitude does the word imprisonment appear. Does the word prison appear? You can absolutely thank who it was that you were without staying who you were. There's a wonderful poet, Rumi, R-U-M-I. And if you guys have not ever read any of Rumi's work, you should. It is a wonderful ancient philosophy base that really makes you think. And I pulled this quote for today. Are you ready? Why are you so busy with this or that, or good or bad? Pay attention to how things blend. And I know some of you are like, wait, what? Why are you so busy with this or that, good or bad? Pay attention to how things blend. When you're younger, you look at things in a very black and white, good or bad. yin yang type of way. Yes or no? When you get older, you realize that there's a lot of gray. There's a lot of middle ground. That things have to blend. Blending means that you allow the old part of yourself to dissolve into wisdom. It doesn't mean that you have to leave it behind. It doesn't mean you have to forget it. It doesn't mean that you have to, have a funeral and bury it and all that stuff. I mean, you can, but it doesn't mean you have to. Blending your old self means allowing that version of you that kept you alive to transform into wisdom. In all the Disney movies, there's always someone that goes to be up in the stars and they're remembered as a spirit, an ancestor, and so on. It's exactly what you're doing with the old version of yourself. Let it dissolve into wisdom. Stop dragging it forward as baggage. Because at some point, all of the old tools don't work anymore. Now, I'm a big fan of saying in magic to go back to the basics. And when you feel stuck, go back to the basics. They will always work for you. But there comes a point when some of your old tools that you have created for you, whether it's magic or whether it's in your actual real physical life, they don't work. They don't work anymore. You overgive because that's who you've been, and now you're depleted. That's where I'm at. I have overgave for decades. I'm not even talking about TikTok. I have overgave to everyone in my life that now I am so depleted that all I want is silence. I just want to hear my fish tank running and silence. I don't even want to listen to music most days, and I fucking love music. There comes a point when over-explaining suddenly becomes self-betrayal. Because you've been programmed to over-explain everything you are, everywhere you've been, all the things you've done for validity or defense. And now that becomes self-betrayal. I can't tell you how many times over the last few months that I have been talking to someone and in the middle of a conversation, a text or whatever, and my brain went, I don't want to. I don't want to talk. I don't want to tell you about me right now. I don't want to. There comes a point when your endurance becomes very quiet, passive self-harm. When you are overgiving and you're oversharing and you're overdoing everything for everybody else, what is there that you're doing for you? What are you doing for you? You now are harming your own self because of that. And the thing is, it's not a failure, because some of you guys are sitting there beating yourself up like, oh my God, I did that. It's not a failure. It's not a failure, and it's not limitation. Maybe this is an initiation. This is an initiation, my friends. I know that you guys have heard the Zen saying of when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But what happens when you're not ready? What happens when you're not ready? The version of you that got you here can't take you where you're going. The teacher is there waiting on you. The teacher is there waiting on you. But you have to leave all of that baggage back there because you can't take it on the path where you're going. It's too heavy. It's too much, and you don't need it. It doesn't mean that it was wrong. It means that it has completed its purpose. You know what? So just let that sink in for a minute. If you need to take a deep breath, because I'm gonna. Because sometimes giving words to things, putting them out into the world, out into the universe, they came out of your face, you said it, now it's real, it lives in the universe as a word you said, and with me it now lives on video forever and ever. I said it, came out of my face. It's hard to hear, isn't it? And your homework with this sermon is to repeat that out loud to yourself in the mirror. You're going to feel dumb doing it because we all do when we do affirmations. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. The version of you that got you here cannot take you where you're going. The version of you that got you here cannot take you where you're going. People tell you all the time, you got to grow, you got to change, you got to shift, you got to be more, you got to be better, you got to do this, do that, do this, do that, change, 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 shift, 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 shift. But the thing is, like, we do that consciously all the time. We're always changing, we're always evolving, we're always growing. Every single moment is a second older that you are. Every single minute is a minute older that you are. That's wisdom that you gained. But no one talks about the grief of evolution. Growth costs. Growth is not free. Growth is not guaranteed. Just because you lived another year, just because you lived another month, just because you lived another minute, that none of that's guaranteed. Anybody that's had a near-death experience will tell you that their outlook on life, when they have been on the table, in a hospital, on the ground somewhere, and they have been dead, their heart has stopped. And they were brought back. Anybody that has had that experience can tell you that growth costs. That you are not guaranteed to be here tomorrow. You are not guaranteed to be here in an hour. You are not guaranteed to be here another 50 years. Growth costs. Growth costs you interesting things too. Not just time and not just wisdom and not just, your skin getting a little saggy, not just, your knees getting a little worse. Not that. They cost you things like relationships and friendships that only knew an old version of you. They cost you things like roles that you played in your own life at an expert level. You crafted that role, you created that role, and you played it at an amazing expert level. Growth is going to cost you that. And I want you to listen to this next one because I'm going to have to repeat it twice. Your nervous system plays a huge role in your spirituality, whether you realize it or not. Growth is also going to cost you dreams that belonged to a different version of your nervous system. Dreams that you had when you were 5. You have learned how to kind of let go of a little bit, right? But every one of us still has a little dream in there that we're like, I don't really want to let go of it though. I never really let go of wanting to be an astronaut. I still wrote to NASA all through my elementary school years. I still study all that shit. I take fucking quantum physics classes through the MIT free portal for fun. I never let go of that. Will I ever be an astronaut? No. But growth is going to cost you dreams that belong to a different part a different version of your nervous system. They're all still somewhere up here in your nervous system, right? They're still somewhere in your brain. They live somewhere in your body, right? My dream of being an astronaut lives in my knee, and I'm going to tell you why. Because some of you guys are like, okay, weirdo. Because my left knee is what cost me that dream. My left knee getting snapped in a karate class when I was in 9th grade, requiring me to have surgery, is what cost me being in perfect health to be able to follow that dream. So that, in my nervous system, is where that dream lives. And every one of you, as I said, that was like, oh, my elbow cost me this, or my back cost me this, or insert whatever here cost me insert whatever here. And this grief is quiet. This type of grief is quiet and it's private, and usually you don't even acknowledge it. That is the first time I have ever said out loud that that is where that dream died in my body. And when you give it words and you realize, like, you have carried that grief of that lost dream for so long, when you realize that, you realize how unacknowledged your grief of becoming someone new is, has been, and will be. There is a Buddhist saying that I absolutely love, because you guys know that I love lotus flowers, right? So there's a Buddhist saying that is, no mud, no lotus. I love that saying. And it's something that I say to myself whenever I am really stressed. Whenever I'm like, okay, this is too much. I'm overwhelmed. I can't handle this. What the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? Etc. No mud, no lotus. No mud, no lotus. No mud, no lotus. Because mud is not punishment. Mud is the birthplace of becoming. The nastier the mud, the more beautiful the lotus. And I want you to think about that really carefully for a minute. Because some of the hardest promises that you have to release are the ones that other people benefited from. Some of the hardest things that you're going to have to let go of are the things that other people benefited off of you from. Being that emotional container, that emotional sounding board, being that support system, being the strong one, being the one that always cleaned up the mess, being the fixer, being the one who never said no. They were always there. My friends, my soul, your soul, did not incarnate here to just be consumed. And as I look at the clock, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Your soul did not incarnate here to fucking be consumed by someone else or something else. There is an African proverb that I now really love, and I am going to make sure that this is part of my daily thing in front of my face, that I found in writing this sermon, and it is this: you cannot carry everything forever and still walk upright. Let that sink in. You cannot carry everything forever and still walk upright. And here's another quote that I pulled from a lady named Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And yes, that's her actually name, Pinkola. If you have not been initiated into the darkness, you cannot bring the light. If you have not been initiated into the darkness, you cannot bring the light. Evolution demands discernment. Not everyone gets to come with you, and not every role that you've ever had gets renewed, nor should it. And this is the truth of today's sermon, and this is the part that I needed to hear, that I need to hear. And I can't promise I won't tear up a little bit. And this is probably the part that you need to hear as well. You are not breaking a promise. You are updating your truth. You are not breaking a promise. You are updating your own truth. Change is not betrayal. Evolution is not a failure. But staying misaligned is. I know you guys have heard this Greek philosophical saying, no man ever steps in the same river twice. But have you heard the rest of it? No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man. And you were never meant to stay static. And you were never meant to continue to hold on to promises that you made 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30, 40, 50 years ago. You were meant to respond to becoming who you need to be. You are not breaking a promise. You are updating your own truth. Now, you do need to do the honoring part. You do need to sit and say, you know what? I am going to give honor to who I was. I'm going to give thankfulness to who I was. I'm going to give gratitude to who I was. I'm going to give whatever it is you want to say to who I was. And I release that version of me. Go be free. Run in the wind. You need to release that version of you because you need to choose who it is that you're becoming over the old version of you that is now a prison. So let me say this next part really, really clearly so none of you guys leave confused at all. Because I don't want you to take the wrong thing away from this. I know that every one of you is going to take away the thing you needed to hear today the most. But let me say this next part. You are allowed to outgrow your past. You are allowed to disappoint people who preferred you to be silent. You are allowed to choose your own alignment over familiarity. You are allowed to let go of the devil you know for something different. There's a part in the Tao Te Ching that says, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. And if you guys have followed me for any length of time, you know that there's a Buddhist quote that is on my business cards. It's on everything, and that is, what you think, you become. So what are you becoming? Are you still becoming this old version of you that supports everyone else but not yourself? I want all of us, you, me, everybody that might listen to this in the future, I want all of us to have the courage to release all of that shit. that kept you safe in that moment, in that decade, in that year, in that relationship, in that job, in that life, in that house, in that whatever. I want you to release that version of you that kept you safe during the volatile time that is now over. And I want you to step into a life that lets you truly live and lets you truly be who you want to be, who you need to be, and who you should be. My friend, you don't need permission from the world to do this. You don't need permission from anyone to do this. But just in case you do, permission granted.